Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hi. Here's my disclaimer. Oh, hi,
Okay.
Susan. Hold on. I'm going to do my intro. Any information discussed, thank you, in this interview may not be the views of the station or host. Please discuss any information with your primary care physician. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Passionate World Talk Radio. No, you're a host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. Folks, I always say you should really listen to my shows because I have phenomenal guests. Well, today I am really honored because I do have a special guest with me today. And this month is, of course, everyone knows, is June. And it's Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And if anyone's been listening to me, you know I'm an advocate. You know I mention all the time, I advocate all the time for Alzheimer's and brain awareness and mental health and other topics, because it has affected my life. I believe in giving people a chance to be heard. Passionate World Talk Radio believes in giving people a chance to be heard. And I'm honored to have with me today a new friend. Her name is Susan Lavoice. She has mild cognitive impairment with amyloid plaques and is involved with the clinical trial. And I want Susan Lavoice to share her story today. Welcome, Susan Lavoice, to Chatting with Betsy.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Very thankful that you are coming on to share your story, Susan, because I think it's so important for the public to hear from people who are going through a type of cognitive impairment condition, whatever word you want to use for it. I wish that my husband, Matt, would have spoken up. I wish he would have let me interview him, but he didn't. And I really admire people who speak up. And I like to know, in the audience, I'd like the audience to know how long you've had your mild cognitive impairment, and how was it getting diagnosed now? In this,
right?
Or how long were you diagnosed? How long ago,
right.
I should say?
Well, again, this is a story that doesn't have a very sequential, easy to explain, answer. I mean, I, long time ago as a child was diagnosed with ADHD. So, that is a dysfunction or dysregulation of the frontal lobe, okay, and executive functioning. And so, for a long time, there was always losing things, misplacing things, not so much the word searching and whatever. That seemed to come more into my 40s. But, I mean, that was sort of underlaying this. And you sort of pass it off and go, okay, and try different techniques and whatever. Somewhere in my 40s, my mom had been diagnosed, and looking over your shoulder as your parent, you certainly go, oh dear, you know about genetics and all that, and also knew about family members that preceded her. And she was well aware of the changes. But again, much like what happened to me, it takes quite a while for that to get even addressed or identified, because the tools aren't there to have this real finite, assessment of what's going on with you. And so, like her, I started having some things that you sort of pass off to aging or the ADHD or whatever. But somewhere in, maybe I'm thinking about 2015, I said, oops, things are getting worse here with me. And I really do believe that there's something going on. But the journey was a very difficult one because availability, to get a neurologist in the first place, it's not a quick thing. Months and months of waiting for appointments, and then finally getting to see someone who says, gee, you don't sound like you have this. And if you present well, that is definitely an issue that makes things harder. And so I was always told, well, you present so well. Well, gee whiz, yeah, I do have a master's degree, actually 2 master's degrees, and, was an educator, et cetera, and I'm a pretty bright person. So I think probably compensation is there sometimes where it can sort of, get you through. But I knew that stuff was happening, and it took me, I don't know, 4 years to finally, get somewhere with this. And it really only happened, I'm going to say, last fall. I applied for a research study, and I went in there, and I had taken these tests before, some of them which, frankly, were so basic and simple that I think you'd have to be pretty far gone to not test well. And, I was doing the same thing again, more or less not doing that badly. But previous to that, and I told them I had symptoms that were very concerning, which I think added to the final diagnosis. I said I was misperceiving objects. I was, having these coming to the conclusions that were completely not reasonable. Anxiety off the chart, which I had never had. Further depression, which I'd never had. I mean, things were clearly not normal for me. And, to the point of, panic over this, that I wanted to really end my life. And yet, getting this pushback made it worse, this attitude of like, you're fine, or, you don't present with the test that you have anything, etc. So finally I go to this study, and they I guess they listened to me, and they gave me this PET scan that revealed, lo and behold, a 75, this is the number they used, of an amyloid plaque in my brain. So they went, yes, it's there. So this is the absolute, nobody had an opinion about this. This was real science that showed this. And finally I was validated, which was so amazing. So, we're talking 4 or 5, plus years at least of finally getting, an evaluation here that it wasn't just my imagination. So that was not an easy thing, but now that I'm in the study, I'm finally, validated and believed, and that, I believe, it makes all the difference.
Yes. You know what, Susan? When I hear your story, I do. I get choked up. And other people's stories, it just breaks my heart because, doctors need to listen. And I hope that they are better now. I know I had trouble getting doctors to believe me with Matt. Matt knew that he was having difficulty. His coworkers knew because he was working at the time. And to be, when he was tested, and to be told you're not cooperating and blaming it on him, and, you can't be that bad. Yes, he could be, and he was. I understand your frustration. That's why I get choked up. I can't help it. Thank you, yeah. It is frustrating because, especially like everyone knows, I believe everyone knows, or their spouse would know something is amiss.
Absolutely.
And
who would make this up? Who would want?
Exactly.
Here's the thing. Who would want? I wasn't. And I will tell you, I'm going to throw in the woman word. I mean, I do believe too there is a bias. We women. I mean, I was actually diagnosed, and I don't mind saying this, at Brigham and Women's with functional neurological disorder. What the heck is that? Well, essentially, that goes way back to the days of Freud, Sigmund Freud. With hysterical female syndrome, where women were thought to be hysterical, that they were attention-seeking, etc. And I sat before a bunch of people that were cognitive behavioral therapists as though that was what would get me through this. And it was like I sat there thinking, I must be crazy, because these people are saying, you just need this to change your belief system, and this will all go away. And I left there having absolutely zero faith in the medical community. That's what it did to me. And knowing that, most people would not be able to withstand that and be resilient to say, I believe in myself. I believe in my ability to understand who I am and what I can do and function. And I don't care what this person has for their background or their, level of expertise. I know my body better than them. And so finally, I just pushed through that, and I found, this result, right? And I think it's really, that everybody, I would just want to say, do not give up. You know better. You know your body better than anybody else, and never let anybody change your mind on that.
Yes, and as you know, we have to be our own advocates, and especially being a woman. I know myself had difficulties with doctors believing me that I had pain, that something was wrong. You mentioned that you had ADHD, which I find interesting, and I'll tell you why. Matt, my husband Matt, he had undiagnosed ADHD. He was always a little forgetful. So when he became more forgetful, I became concerned. He was always, I had to remind him of stuff, but when it was even more so, and, being depressed. Personally, in my opinion, I mean, who wouldn't be depressed if you can't do your job? If you can't know your way around town like you did. I mean, shoot, I was depressed watching him. I'm going to be blunt here. I mean,
situational depression. Right. And I will say this too, that I was put on 8 in my journey. Oh boy. I don't want to say I need part 2 of this, but there is a lot that I've been through. And one of the things was psychiatrists. And this belief system that if I give you the right drug, antidepressant, anxiety drug, it'll work. And so, trial and error. 8 to 10 different medications later, I said, enough of that. This does not work. I'm not genetically, having this happen. No, it is a situational depression. It is a situational anxiety. When you feel that you have a disease and that no one is listening to you and no one is addressing that or even acknowledging it, of course, the reaction from human beings is there are cortisol spikes, their fight or flight, all that goes off the chart because you feel you are, at risk and you have nowhere to go. So that is a normal and natural response. It wasn't that I was born like that or, I never had that. So, but, all they could think of was the focus on another type of antidepressant or an anxiety pill. And in this day, I am on 0, absolutely 0. So.
Wow, that's great. They tried antidepressants with Matt and even something to help his attention, and it didn't work because that really wasn't the problem.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Are you on any meds for cognitive, like Namenda or Exelon or Aricept? Are you taking any of that?
No, I actually, the only thing I will go back up a bit and say that having ADHD, there is, what I learned way more about it, there is a dopamine dysregulation. There are different things, serotonin, the whole thing, but, dopamine, epinephrine. So there is a dopamine dysregulation. And so, I had kind of fought the idea of being on methylphenidate. Now, methylphenidate, brand names, Ritalin, Concerta, on and on and on, right? Which really gets kind of a bad rap nowadays because some people are using it and they shouldn't be, right? They're misusing it. They're abusing it, right? But there is, like for any medication, the right dosage, the right, person, it's beneficial. And so I actually found out about methylphenidate helping with cognitive issues from a person in my support group, Curry Weisenhunt. I think you know who he is. And his doctor had prescribed that. And he said it was a game changer for him. So, I said, well, that's interesting. I mean, I have ADHD. I sort of pushed that away. But, maybe that might work. Well, it was a game changer for me. I mean, what a difference it has made in my my dopamine, my ability to have motivation and, the neurons, and I've learned subsequently why it helps. The neurons are firing better. They're not dysregulated, and they're working better. It does do that. It's not a fix, it's not a total cure, but it actually is helping neurons that have been, their neural activity has been impaired, like a wire that's got infrequent connection, it sputters out. So this is actually keeping a nice consistent neuron connection, and it's made all the difference. And in turn, it's made me able to focus on non-medication things that have helped me immensely, which we now know to be true that they do help, okay? And so, there are things, I take that, plus I do take, I think it's one memantine. I don't even know if that's really helping at this point, to tell you the truth. I think it's 20 milligrams of that, and that's it. Oh, plus a statin, which I've learned more about that, why that's actually a good thing now. So that's kind of it, along with vitamins and supplements that I do take, a whole bunch of those. So I don't really need or want to take the typicals, the Excelons, et ceteras. No, I don't think that really is helping all that much for people. I don't know, maybe it is, but for me, no, it didn't make any difference at all. The thing that made the huge difference was the methylphenidate, but that had to be tweaked over time, the right amount, when to take it, and all that. It's not a one and done.
Right. And, medications affect people differently, and fortunately, medication is a trial and error.
It is,
and, finding what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I'm really curious about your clinical trial. When Matt was diagnosed 12 years ago, there wasn't that many clinical trials at the time.
Yeah. Right.
And he didn't want to go.
Oh, your husband did, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to go. I think now there's much more clinical trials available now. And do you find it helping you?
Yeah,
or are you able to discuss any of that?
Yeah, sure I can. What I looked at the clinical trials is I've actually tried to promote that to different people I know. I think there's a lot of fear there. And honestly, I'm not saying that I didn't have any trepidation at first too. But honestly, they're pretty safe, in terms of, there isn't a lot of, initially I'm worried about it and all that, but, honestly, they want to keep you safe. They do not want to hurt you. That's what you have to know. You go into that, you're not a guinea pig in the sense of, we're just going to throw this stuff at you and we don't care what happens to you. They're really going to be very careful and cautious about the effect. I have blood work done. I have, full body checks every few weeks, right, to make sure that the body is doing okay in general, right? And then, the other thing is you meet with the doctor, and the people there are so wonderful. Again, I would encourage anyone to give it a try. It's not scary at all. Maybe you have your own fears about the stuff, but you go in there, there's really, the large part, it's a very comfortable situation. I am compensated for it along with my gas. Luckily, I live in the Boston area, so there's a lot of availability, although there's more and more. Things are very, very clearly explained to you. They check to see, how your depression levels are. They want to make sure that, you're okay with that. Again, they're very open about, what's happened. I've had a lot of MRIs. That's kind of a pain, but that doesn't hurt. I've had PET scans. That doesn't hurt. You kind of get used to this whole experience. And believe me, I had cancer 8 years ago, and that was way worse, the chemo and all that. This is nothing compared to that. So I would really encourage people, the only fear is fear itself. It's not a fearful thing in and of itself, And again, the patient, is going to be very well cared for in the process. They do not want to injure anybody. They're very, very explicit in that they want to check you and check you and check you and check you, because it wouldn't help them to have somebody who is worse off than when they came in. So, that's been a good experience. And right now, I'll tell you honestly, I'm very transparent about this. This is a amyloid plaque eliminator. I call it like a solution, right, that's cleaning up, that's clearing that up. The issue for me, though, has been that I've had some microbleeds because these things, this amyloid, I almost compare it to a shower wall. There's junk on there, and they try to scrub it away. Well, the problem that can happen is, when it's aggressively being scrubbed, it can injure a little bit the surface below it, right? And so I've had minor little things happen. So right now I'm in this sort of a resting period from it. I've had 3 infusions. They haven't told me how much it's been reduced, but I know it's been reduced. I can't quantify that. They haven't told me that. It's not its endpoint yet. The endpoint is 25, which means pretty much normal. I'm below my number. I don't know where it is, but I know it's a bit, quite a bit. And I don't know. It's hard to explain. Do I feel better? I do feel better. I don't know why. I feel, do I still get, I call them like glitches if I don't take the meds at a certain time or whatever. But I do somehow feel better. This is subjective. I have nothing to measure that in with, right now. But I do. And I will also say that I'm also actually possibly going to be in another study. I may have to stop this one. That is pretty exciting. But I don't know if you have what time you have on this. But I have something that I spoke to somebody about, and it's going to be in New York City. And I may very well qualify for this, and it's going to be amazing. So, once you get into the study, I also want to say, the awesome thing is you are in the pipeline, okay? You're not an anonymous person anymore. They know you. They have all this info on you now. They're willing to, you got all that collected or whatever. But you're sort of in the know, let's just say. So I encourage people to do this because what have they got to lose? And there's no real, okay, I'm not saying there's no negative at all, but it's so small overall. When they get to the point of they have people like me, for stage the 3rd trial, whatever, it's been tested quite a bit by that. And, they're going to stop if it's hurting you. So.
Well, Susan, I have to thank you for participating in this clinical trial because you are helping other people. They're learning from you, which is going to help people down the line because I'll tell you, I pray for a cure or something for my son's generation. My son will be 38.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he's at very, very high risk, extremely high risk. And so I want to thank you.
Yeah. It's never too early to, and I don't want to go on about this if we can meet sometime else. There's way more to do now, not only to prevent and to slow progression, okay? There's way more now in the pipeline that says, don't wait until you're 60 or whatever the heck. There's stuff now you can do, right, to slow the rate of these proteins being built up. This is what they are, in your brain. And other places probably as well. There's stuff that can be done, I think, again, a lot of this has to do, too, with lifestyle. They're finding that out more and more. And, we have to remember that, it's not the magic pill thing. It's always about a combination of things, even medication, right? If you have heart condition, you can't just take a heart pill and then eat ice cream all the time, right? So it's really about what are you doing? What are you doing to promote your health to help the process, So I think that's a key here, that it's a partnership. You said advocate, but also a partnership with your healthcare provider, and you, that, you also have a responsibility for your health. So I've taken that on, I guess.
Yes, that's so true. So the clinical trial you're in now is to clear out the plaques. That's interesting. Yes. And, of course, there's risk and there's, there could be complications with anything. That's
right.
I mean, taking any medication, really, there's always risk and side effects.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned, it's fun that you mentioned today about, heart disease, because my son showed me an article that he received a magazine today. He said, "Oh, Mom, look, there's an article about Alzheimer's," and I read it, and it was talking about try to do what you can to prevent heart disease and diabetes, which is known to
Absolutely.
make someone more prone for some kind of dementia. And,
Absolutely.
to eat right, exercise, and of course, you could do everything by the book and still get something, but do what you can in your power to prevent those diseases. Absolutely.
Right. Well, the thing about getting something, as you said, though, is that I think there's more to that story than my mom, and that is that, she was a smoker, all right? And, she had very, 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 very high cholesterol. So there's some backstory to this, right, in terms of her getting it at that age. The thing is, too, you can say, well, you may have, now I have the APOE4 gene, which precludes you maybe to be more at risk. And I have some other things as well which might be helpful. But the point I'm making is that, why your sister not get this until her late 70s into her 80s. My mom getting this in her 50s. Well, my aunt didn't smoke. My aunt walked everywhere. She didn't have a car. There are many factors that we don't, I guess, account for in that, when regression starts, when disease starts, you much rather have it start, when you're, 85, 90 than when you're 50. So the point I'm making, too, is I think that my mom having it way earlier than her siblings, there was some coexisting factors with lifestyle that made a difference. So, you may have that in there. It's not a guarantee, but, maybe you will. But, when you want to put it off as long as you can or slow it or whatever, I think that's the whole key right now is to do that. And as they find more things, but again, that I think will always be important, the lifestyle.
Yes, very important. It was the opposite with my husband. His mom, his grandmother, and then later on his aunts and uncles had Alzheimer's, but later in life, Matt was the first one to get it young. So he was diagnosed at 56, and he didn't have any heart disease or diabetes, and he was healthy. Other than his brain, he was healthy, which is why I believe he lived, 10 years. And everyone is different, but it was so, I could just tell people, especially because it is Brain Awareness Month, take care of your brain. Do what you can. I mean, I live in New Jersey, and that's another thing that makes me wonder because we live in New Jersey. Matt worked with in a chemical place. Was he exposed to stuff, but it didn't show up in his bloodstream? Who knows? Who knows, Susan, how much is environmental?
Absolutely.
What we eat, drink, and breathe in. You have to be an advocate, folks. I say this over and over again. Go ahead, Susan.
I was going to say, it's also good to make, when people talk together about this and talk about experiences with family and whatever, but the great thing about this is that's the kind of brain I have, I'm really good at making connections, right, and correlations with things. And as you said that, my mom worked at a company that was, government contracts. And I also wonder about some of the stuff that she was working on, in this place that maybe had chemicals, et cetera, right? Or microwaves or whatever the heck it was that could have also. It's hard. We don't have any way of knowing that yet because we don't have a wonderful, perfect instrument to measure and to look at the brain and like almost on a cell level, right? I mean, MRIs are they're okay, but they're so 40 years ago, and we need more advanced ways of looking at the brain. But I believe that there is definitely a lot of poison and toxicity and whatever, either from the workplace or the home, this toxic mold that that we haven't measured, right? We don't know. You don't know what your level of that is. You look at your brain tomorrow. You could have some in there. You don't know because that's not a current practice. It's not common practice. So I believe that, hearing what you say, right, my mom was also in that kind of an industry where she probably was exposed to some things that were not helpful. So, but again, we don't know that now because she's gone. But maybe that's the new thing, I think, is to really I think they're coming up with things that now they want to have a baseline for people's brain. You know, how wonderful would that be that at, 2025, you get a baseline. Here's where you are right now. Here's what normal looks like. You know, and we just like you do for, your blood work and all that people are doing. And now we keep doing that, as a checkup, and we see if there's any changes. You don't wait until, the horse has left the barn. You want to do this before that's happened. You want to see, oh, wait a minute, something to pay attention to, red flags. But you need the right tools to do that.
Yes, that's a great idea, Susan, because, they say the brain changes can occur 10 to 20 years prior.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To someone getting diagnosed. Yeah. So it's like,
exactly.
Especially... how they do colonoscopies with people who have a risk of colon cancer. They do it younger than what the standard is. If it runs in your family, I think they should have people do that. Do that baseline, and then you can follow with that because there's just so much that we don't know about the brain. And I talked to two doctors who were they're involved with Parkinson's last year, and, they're finding that these pesticides that were used have caused Parkinson's. And the Parkinson's is now getting it's getting more common in Alzheimer's, which is, scary.
Right. Well, again, it's our water supply. I mean, we're all being bombarded. I think that's the thing, that we're being bombarded by these things. They're invisible, and so, it's a combination of things. But the thing is, you can't control everything. But what you can do is do the best you can to give your body and brain, all tied together, the best chance, to fight things off. Our immune system is a big thing. But also, again, you want to be able to look at something and assess it, often, so that when something crops up, you can go in there and address it. It's like having a little tiny, burn in your backyard before it becomes a forest fire. So, I think that's the key part of this, that we have to do that. It's not every day, whatever, but, you have to do this on a routine basis, or, time is so, as so key with cancer, with anything. You don't wait until it's stage 4 cancer to address it. So, I think it's all about, we go to a new model here, of not disease addressing, but prevention, or maximizing what we already have inside of us.
Yes, because prevention helps. I want to say prevention is better than to be able to get a cure or a treatment, and that's the key is the prevention. And my brother, Bradley, he died last year. He was having memory problems for a year. And my mother finally took him to a neurologist. And the attitude, Susan, that neurologist, I wish I could have reached through the phone and just give him a talking to. I know. Still, like it was 2021, the attitude of that neurologist was so arrogant and ignorant. It just baffled me. So if it's dementia, so, there's no cure, so what difference does it make? Well,
I know. There's sort of nothing you can do, commentary. And that is so, I'm sorry, it's lazy, it's unprofessional. I mean, again, I think that horse is gone. We're at a different age, and I think my same frustration with, this is the 21st century. Okay, we have artificial intelligence that is blowing the socks off of people. I mean, no, you can't fall back on that excuse. That's bull.
Exactly.
So the bottom line is, you can't do that anymore, okay? There's actually a doctor, you've heard of this, Dr. Bredesen maybe, that I just found him online, that he wrote a book, but he's also decided he's going to, and I think this is the revolution in medicine that has to happen, he has it's called a Recode and something else, but he's actually assembled a medical team now that people can access, okay, that they now are going, we're gonna attack this from different angles, not just a pill thing, people that can actually address this from different aspects, and like a clinical thing where you kind of take people in, assess them, see where they are, see what are the things they need to change. I mean, all this thing in a very comprehensive way. It's not a one and done. It's not go in there and go, oh well, bye-bye, take this and too bad for you. This is old stuff, and they better let go, because I'm on my soapbox right now, Betsy.
That's okay.
Medicine had better get off their, where, and they better get going, because they're going to be left in the dust by these younger people and other people that are going, no, the old way of doing this does not work, and this is an epidemic that we're going to be dealing with, and it's going to cost a lot of money if we don't start doing something now. And so I think that, this is where advocacy comes in, and we have to challenge these doctors and say that type of medicine is so 19th century. We're done with that. It does not work, and you don't have any excuses anymore. The knowledge is. I actually spoke to a lovely. I'll just say this one more thing. My eye doctor is amazing. And you find this person, you go, oh my God, you should teach other doctors how to be a doctor, because this is a person who cares about his patients, who has wonderful bedside manner, whatever that means. And he said, the information is coming across my desk so fast and furious that I can't keep up. And he says, I just read an article that said the medical knowledge that we are encountering is tripling or doubling every 3 months. Just think about that. The knowledge is doubling every 3 months. It's just, so a lot of these doctors, frankly, they're overwhelmed, but they better get going, because it's there.
Yes. Oh, amen, Susan. I wish I could hug you.
I started to be like a preacher, but yeah, I'm
no,
just done
I love
with
it.
pussyfooting around this.
I love your passion, and I feel this.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I mean, Matt's primary doctor said to me, Betsy, there's nothing I could have done for Matt, and I feel frustrated as a physician. And I said to him, well, you could have listened to us and believed us. That's what you could have done.
Right.
And I just want to encourage the audience. And I even had a doctor who I interviewed say this: if your doctor does not listen to you and doesn't respect what you're saying, find another doctor.
Exactly. But that's
find
easier said
another
than
one.
done. Right. That's it. And I did that as well. I can't tell you how many doctors I went to. I think my thing was I stayed too long. I think because there is this, we have sort of this putting doctors on as pedestal. Let's say, oh my gosh, no, they're just human beings, and they went to medical school, and some of them quite a while ago, and whatever else they've learned, I don't really know at this point. But again, I had this thought before when you were talking. I don't know if it really makes a lot of sense, but it's like, your ignorance is no excuse for your incompetence.
Yes.
So
I like that.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. So, I mean, it's like, your inability to help your patient, your ignorance, there's no excuse. That's not an excuse, Then learn, then figure it out. So.
Yeah, yes. I really, my hope, I really hope now in 2022, and 2022 is almost half over, I hope the doctors are waking up. I hope the medical professional community is waking up, because they need to start screening. Matt's doctor had started, withdrawing the clock, and I thought, too bad he didn't have this a few years ago. Of course, he rolled his eyes at me. But, you know, you have to be very proactive. I want to tell the audience, and I don't care if I sound redundant, you need to be proactive in your health. Question your doctor.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to question your doctor. Find another doctor if your instinct is telling you there's something amiss with you or your loved one. Go with your gut. Go seek another doctor, 3 or 4 if you have to, until you get peace of mind.
Exactly. And I think families have to get whole families, not just and I hate that word patient, but not just the person that needs the help, but the whole family better get educated because it will affect them. You better get educated too because this is not going away anytime soon, and it affects more and more people. And hiding your head is not going to fix it or change anything. Yes. And, you know, it will make it worse, actually. And, you know, I think, again, it takes a village, right? And I think you mentioned about you hope doctors. Well, I'm beyond the hope doctors. I'm in the phase of I'm going to shake them up. You know, everything I can do to say, you know what, no, that's not okay. And no, I'm going to go to the next level. And the neurologist that I have with the study, I mean, she's amazing. And she's on that level of going, yes, I have a lot more to learn. And she says, you know, I'm learning from my patients. How wonderful is that? You know, as a teacher, I knew that I could learn from my students too. It's not this I'm on the high power and I'm giving you imparting you the knowledge. That's baloney. You know, the patient, the person who's dealing with this, has a lot of information and insight to offer to the healer, let's call them. And if they don't address that, the healer, then they have no business being one.
That's true. That's very true. Yes, the families do need to get involved. I have said, you know, education. I say it all the time. Just about every day on my own personal page. Right. Absolutely. You know, education. And here in New Jersey, with my neurologist anyway that we went to, I still go to him, that they are now paying attention to the family and what the family needs and to help them cope. It does. It takes a village of people to help the families. And, you know, ask your doctor, do they know of clinical trials? How did you find out about yours, Susan?
Well, you know, it's not really that hard, I have to say. I think, again, I've mentioned this to some people, and I'll be honest with you, kind of felt like they led them by the hand, and I don't know what that is. It was a wall that went up. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll talk to my doctor. And this fear factor going on. I don't know what that's about, really. I mean, not that I was, la-di-da about it, but at the same time, I mean, you know, you gotta inform yourself, and I knew it was like, okay, I knew what I was looking for. I was going to look for the first one because you might just get the placebo. That's what I was more upset about. I didn't want to go through this and have the nothing pill, right? You know, so but you know, I'm in the one that it's not the placebo, it's the real thing now. You know, so again, you know, the clinical trial thing. You know, I mean, hey, the internet is wonderful in the sense of I'm pretty good at data diving. You know, I mean, I told somebody if you haven't thought on something, put that inside of quotes, you know, to kind of avoid the 9 million things that have nothing to do with what you're talking about. And, you know, be specific about your question, right? And, you know, you put something in quotes and say, you know, where are clinical trials, you know, current clinical trials, you can put all the qualifiers you want. Where are current clinical trials, you know, in the, you know, New Jersey area dealing with Alzheimer's, blah, blah, blah. There's so much out there for you to access, you know, and clinicaltrials.gov, okay, clinicaltrials.gov is the number one place to go to, and it will take you some time, and you've got to educate yourself how to read it, but it's not that difficult, you know, and you've got to have certain things, you know, to identify, you know, is it currently going on, are they accepting people, whatever. But after a while, you kind of figure out the nomenclature. And then there's also, I don't have it right on the tip of my tongue, but brain, so to speak. But there's also, you can sign up for being notified through your email about clinical trials, you know, with whatever specifics you want, kind of thing. So that's the great thing about, you know, being able to find those things on the internet. you know, and you know, doing the deep data diving where you're only going to get certain things, you can get a million hits that overwhelm you. And that's how I found it. And by going onto that site that was going to notify me about that, right, those popped up on my email. And then it was up to me to call and start going with that. So that was pretty much the process.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Susan, I have to thank you for coming on. I just love your spirit. I love your
thank you
positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I love your passion. And I wish more people really who have a cognitive thing to speak up. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say my big thing is I just so want people to have hope, and I just so want people to know that it's not over till it's over. Do not give up. You know, here's the thing. You know, we're not supposed to get better with this, are we, in any way? Oh, no. It's a downhill. Well, I kind of amazed myself going, oh, my God, I am so much better than I was a year ago. And yet it's not because I have nothing, okay? Yeah, but, you know, I'm trying to get all the engines firing. I mean, you know, your brain, your body and your brain, they want to survive. We have this inner thing where, you know, body really wants to survive. And, you know, if you give up, as you know, a person can be healthy and give up and die. You know, there's in those cases, they give up. So, you know, the giving up thing, you know, the doctors frankly have encouraged. You know, don't do it. You are dead. You will be over if you do that. You have to say that there is a way, even for someone that even seems to be so, you know, God forbid, you know, end stages, there are ways to even make that better, you know, be more at peace, be less anxious. You know, it's never over until the last breath is the way I look at it. And so had I known this, I've heard you say this, when my mother was going through this, you know, my God, she would have had at least less suffering, which isn't that what it's all about? Oh.
Yes.
I don't want to get too sleepy myself, but that's it. That's all in a nutshell. And I just want people to know that, you know, that, and that whole thing about the stigma of that. I know it's out there. It's like AIDS was back in the 80s, right? Oh, my God. We don't talk about it. We don't mention it. We don't, you know, that is still out there, and that's very destructive because, you know, I've heard somebody else on here say, oh, their family turned away from them, et cetera, et cetera. That's horrible. The family is making them worse by killing that family connection, which we all need, right? That is actually injurious to that person's health. Do they know that? I mean, they're contributing to their demise by cutting them off. So, you know, I look at a person, you've heard of Daisy Best, I know, and, you know, why is her mother looking to be so happy most of the time? Yes, she's far advanced in her cognition, all that, but the woman looks to me a lot of times very happy, and that's because she's at home. Daisy is making a very enriching, you know, environment. Okay, I mean, with music, with, you know, her granddaughter, great-granddaughter, you know, all the things they're doing, you know, that my mother didn't have that in the nursing home at all. I mean, she was like, that's it, I want to die. But at least Daisy's mom is having a quality, you know, and that's really what it's about. We want quality of life, you know. So
that's right.
That to me is wonderful.
Yes, it is. I say go out and live life, live it to the fullest. Everyone should be doing and enjoying life to the fullest while you can and still enjoy it. And I just,
and
you
it's
know,
good for your brain.
yes, I mean, just, you know, enjoy life.
Yeah.
Do, you know, what you...
Absolutely good for your brain. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Susan Lavoice, for coming on. Thank you so much. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you for
I hope I didn't
doing.
overdo it.
No,
not
at all.
Forever.
Yes, we could. I'll have to have you back on next year for a follow-up. I love to interview people, you know, like you. I'd love to interview your everyday person dealing with some kind of a struggle and making it through and knowing how they're doing.
Well,
and you know,
I do have,
my heart is always for that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And I just
You're
want
welcome.
to say one thing, and that is that I wouldn't mind at some point in time, this hasn't started yet, I'm in the assessment level here of this other clinical trial that blew my mind when I talked to this person. They said they thought they would want me in this. Yeah, it involves a genetic editing. So there's that.
That's incredible, folks. I have to say, ask your doctor if they know of clinical trials. You could go on the internet and look. I know in New Jersey, I forgot the name of the, I think it's the Memory Institute in Princeton, and they're doing clinical trials. I don't know their name, but I hear it on the radio all the time. I hear them advertising all the time. If anyone's listening that lives in New Jersey. But I want to thank you, Susan Lavoice, for coming on, and keep doing what you're doing. And I just really appreciate you coming on and really admire
well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having
welcome.
This. It's great.
My pleasure. Folks, if you missed any of this podcast, you can catch it all over again wherever you hear your favorite podcast. It's free to subscribe to Chatting with Betsy. On Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, Google, and many other platforms. I want to thank Jeannie White, who writes the blog, produces the show, and who's station manager. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who is CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. Folks, I just cannot help, my passion. Take the advice. Go, if you have any memory problems, if you think you have memory problems, I beg you to go talk to your primary care physician. Go to a neurologist. Get checked. Don't put your head in the sand. And, folks, you need to educate yourself about Alzheimer's and other dementias. Alzheimer's is an epidemic. It is the number 6 killer. And we need to educate ourselves about it and prevention and do what we can to prevent us getting these diseases that could cause it. Heart disease, diabetes. Get out there, walk, and ask your doctor what you could do. Always ask your doctor. Talk to your doctor. And if they don't listen to you when you have concerns, then I would get another doctor. And believe me, I've changed doctors many times. And I just want to say, in a world where you could be anything, folks, to please be kind. Thank you for listening, and please share, because Chatting with Betsy is about helping people, and that's my mission and my vision. So please help me with that by sharing this podcast and subscribing and telling your friends about it, and I appreciate it. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy. Might have forgotten to say, in a world where you could be anything, to please be kind. And until we chat again, be blessed, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are 2 women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager, at THECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the internet.